Story 1. Constantly on their phone makes me feel like whatever is on their phone is more important than the date. Story 2. Showing up late can only be excused if someone is in an unfamiliar place and sends you updates. Story 3. The way they talk about their former partners. How could all of the former partners be completely irrational? Also, extended conversations about former partners in general. Story 4. Coming across as narcissistic and never asking how you feel about something when you ask them the same question. There is not really anything to talk about, and you seem to be the one dragging the conversation. There are no inputs from the other side except when you get them to talk about themselves. Story 5. When I was dating, I was wary of anybody who used the terms alpha male, female, submit, serve, or obey. This indicated to me that the person did not see me as an equal with rights and would probably treat me as an object. I declined. Story 6. Always saying yes, always agreeing, and letting me choose is not how it works. I will not get to know you that way. Story 7. A friend of mine posted a photo with her date without asking for her consent first. Guess how that turned out? He also posted mine where I looked bad without asking me first. For some reason, many of my female friends dislike him and avoid him whenever he is around, despite not knowing him well. Story 8. Took this girl out on a pretty much blind date to a fairly expensive brunch, about $120 before tip. That would have been fine. We were having a good time, the conversation was flowing, and I expected it to be about that much going in, no big deal. We ate a lot and decided to keep the conversation going by going for a walk because it was beautiful outside. All good so far. Then we walked by this Japanese bakery. This place is never open when I'm down here. We have to go in, she exclaimed. It did have weird hours. I wasn't particularly hungry, but it looked cool and she was very excited about it. We went in, she wanted this and that and the other thing. She asked me if I wanted anything and I pointed to a very small mini cake, about 2 bites at most. We got up to the register and the employee totaled it all up, about $34. She just stood there, not reaching for her purse or anything. I could tell what was going on, so I just paid before it got weird. I wish I hadn't. She didn't pick up the phone when I called her on her birthday later that week. Story 9. Constantly checking their phone and taking selfies for their social media. Had a date last week where he literally posted Instagram stories throughout dinner. Like, hello? I am right here. Story 10. Talking about sex, I don't understand why people talk sexually on the first few dates. I normally tell my date before we meet that it makes me uncomfortable. Story 11. Face and neck tattoos. I am a man with tattoos. I believe that people who get tattoos in places that cannot be covered have poor judgment, and I would not date them. Story 12. It seems that many responses come from individuals who were rejected after the first date. To protect their fragile ego, they are labeling normal behaviors as warning signs. Story 13. Girls who are overly attached to or best friends with their mother. No thanks. Here is a list of reasons why that can be a warning sign. Story 14. Using offensive language or racist comments casually in conversation. Rudeness towards you or someone else. Arrogance. Story 15. Not holding their own in the conversation and just answering questions about themselves all night long. We are supposed to be trying to get to know one another to see if we are compatible. Ask me something about me. Story 16. First comments like, oh, you are shorter than I imagined. This is both a put down and a realization of who that person is. Story 17. They start talking about politics or asking about your religious beliefs within the first 5 minutes of meeting you. Story 18. The best part about red flags is that they are subjective. Everyone has their own level of acceptance in social and individual interactions. Keep your moral compass due north and you will be fine. Story 19. I went on 2 dates with this guy. I told him beforehand that I wasn't looking for anything, but if we happened to like each other, then I would be open to it. I set my boundaries before agreeing to meet up. I did not want to be touched at all. The first times we hung out were supposed to be about catching up since we hadn't talked since high school. I did not mind him talking about his ex-girlfriends since I knew most of them and used to be friends with some. I was able to tell the difference between how he talked about them and how they had talked about him. However, when he told me that a girl he had hooked up with had accused him of sexual assault, at first I thought, okay, then definitely only meeting in public areas until I can make my own judgments. But on the second date, he tried to touch me and kept hinting that he almost expected to have sex with me, even when I told him before that I already knew I was not interested in him that way. Story 20. When the conversation becomes one-sided, nothing irritates me more than having to be the one to carry it. Just say you are not interested beforehand. Story 21. Lying is an immediate red flag that blocks connection. People should seek therapy for their insecurities before the date, rather than rely on the date to wash them away and build a false relationship. Story 22. When they repeat my questions back to me. When they look like they picked their clothes off the floor and decided that attire was appropriate for a first impression. When they walk in as though they have no backbone or show other clear signs of no confidence. When they tell me how much money they have, how many oil rigs they own, how many cars they have, etc. When they talk to me as if I am an idiot. And the list continues. Essentially, when they exhibit a vortex of absurd behavior, I am out. Story 23. When he first wanted me to take some inappropriate photos instead of chatting normally. I can't remember why we were on a date, but this memory continues to disgust me to this day. Story 24. Being very touchy already in the first half hour we met. I don't like that. Some men I dated were very touchy, touching me while walking next to me or standing very close to me on the escalator. Feels cheap. Story 25. On a first date, a girl complained about feeling behind because her friends were married with children already. She was 26. Story 26. Asking too many personal questions or rushing things is not advisable. I support relationships that develop gradually. Thinking about children on the first date is inappropriate. Story 27. Eating with their mouth open, sounding like a cow on a June evening in the field with no water in sight. Story 28. He talked nonstop and did not ask me about myself or my interests. He spoke at me instead of with me. It was awful. Story 29. Going full deep dive like it is a background check for a job. What do you want? My security clearance. I understand you are concerned about your health and welfare, but this is dehumanizing and transactional. Story 30. Immediate combative behavior. I went on a date once, and right from the start, this girl was visibly upset about something and very defensive about almost everything I said. I didn't understand it. After asking if she was okay or if something was wrong, I finally gave up trying to be cool about it and asked if she wanted to leave. She had the nerve to act like she wasn't being strange. She said, "Why would I want to leave?" I replied, "You just don't seem comfortable or happy to be here, and no one is forcing you to stay." Long story short, I paid the bill and left. No idea what was going on with her. Story 31. If I am asking all the questions and receiving only one-word answers, and they do not ask me any follow-up questions, I know immediately that they are not interested and are just there for the free meal. Story 32. Consider their overall behavior. Are they mentally present or frequently distracted? How do they treat the waiting staff? Do they say please and thank you? Do they ask questions and engage in a two-way conversation? Or do they seem uninterested in anyone but themselves? Story 33. As a single father, I find it to be an instant deal breaker when women prioritize dating over their children or speak negatively about them. I have had many encounters where a woman would tell me on a date that she left her young children home alone or spoke negatively about them. As a single father, my children are my world, and I cannot imagine doing some of the things I have heard. Story 34. The way they speak to me or others, if they are condescending, is a huge red flag. Do not accept disrespect. Story 35. Overdressing. I want to know the real you, not some facade you designed to make an impression. Women tend to worry too much about their appearance sometimes, but I believe this comes from trying to meet their own standards or the unwritten standards of other women. Story 36. On their phone too much, smokes, annoying voice, cannot shut up, inappropriate outfit, rude to staff, excessive tattoos, too many piercings. Rude. No manners, egotistical, spoiled, astrology obsessed, too much makeup, says, slay every 5 seconds. Oh, and if she is not my girlfriend. Story 37. 1. Changing your order because they think their way is better. Pressuring you to order alcoholic drinks when you have said you do not drink or they have no intention of drinking themselves. Story 38. They have a roll of plastic sheeting, some jumper cables, a hacksaw, and black leather gloves in the back of the car next to a shovel. Story 39. 1. Being late and making me wait for more than 15 minutes. Being rude to the restaurant staff. Showing road rage and nagging unnecessarily. Being nonchalant as if doing a favor by being there and could be somewhere else. Not listening attentively. Constantly on the phone or looking at the watch. Staring at other women around. Story 40. Male here. Constantly checking the phone. Talking about ex-partners. Rude behavior towards wait staff or other workers. Asking how much I earn in the first few dates. Wearing excessive makeup and not resembling profile pictures. Being late. Constantly complaining about life. Story 41. No hobbies, no interests, nothing to really talk about except complaining about their bad job. Brings nothing but a mood killer and more expenses. Story 42. Smacking and grabbing my rear repeatedly. Like, sir, I just met you. Please do not touch me like that. Worst date I have ever been on, and now I am constantly afraid it is going to happen again. Story 43. When I ask for his sign and it ends in a lecture about how astrology is nonsense. I am not talking about asking in a, oh my God, I hope you are not a Pisces because I could never date one kind of way. If you do not believe in it, it is fine. I actually enjoy respectful discussions about topics like that. But if he is just making fun and criticizing a harmless fun activity of mine, it shows he is not capable of respecting anything other than what he deems respectable. Story 44. When a man wants to know what kind of birth control I am on during our first date. It is bold of you to assume you will get past this point. Story 45. In my experience, it is pretty easy to understand how someone perceives themselves compared to others on the first date, and that can be the biggest red flag of all. Story 46. Being very picky over food, making complicated special orders, being rude to waitstaff, sending food back, and complaining are warning signs. It is a negative indicator when someone takes doggy bags. Avoid that behavior. Story 47. On her phone. Orders steak well done. Rude to waitstaff. Only talks about herself. Excessive complaining. Story 48. Not apologizing for being late, not listening at all, only talking about himself, talking about his ex-partners, and constantly checking his phone are some things that would very likely make me not want a second date. Story 49. No interests. If I ask you what you like to do for fun or what interests you and you say nothing really or, I don't know, then there probably will not be a second date. Story 50. Talks a lot about their ex. Too eager to please. Talks more than listens or does not seem interested in what you have to say. Wants to know everything about you on the first date and keeps probing even when you are visibly uncomfortable. How they treat the waiter. Constantly tries to get you to see things from their perspective and pushes you to agree. Punctuality. Checks phone too often. Frowns a lot. Story 51. The man said to me almost immediately, I took my last date to this restaurant too. She left when I went to the bathroom. It was really weird. I have no idea why. To make a long story short, that date was incredibly terrible, and the longer I was at the table, the man became creepier. I debated doing the same thing. Story 52. When they are rude to the server or leave a bad tip, you are basically seeing a preview of how they will treat you when things do not go their way. Story 53. I don't mind paying for a date, but I do not approve of that being the expectation. I have taken several women out to nice places without receiving any thanks. That is a no for me. Story 54. I'm sorry. I'm checking my phone frequently because I am waiting for my Pokemon pack, which has 15 minutes left. Story 55 is being touchy, holding my hand, hugging me, putting his arm or hand on my shoulder, and also touching my baby fat and cheeks. On a first date, a red flag? It was the first date of my life and I was not sure. He also kept asking about my alcohol consumption, whether I go to nightclubs, and if I plan on getting a tattoo. I feel he is a bit conservative, which is not a problem for me as long as I am not forced to do the same. Story 56. There are many things. When you are a Flamengo fan or a Corinthians fan. When you are a leftist and admire Lula excessively. When you are overly emotional and romantic. When you only think about work and never have time for healthy leisure. When you live with your mother even though you are an adult and able to support yourself. When you are too jealous and want to control everything. When you ask many questions but do not share much about yourself. When you only complain and blame everything and everyone. When a person is poorly dressed or neglects hygiene and personal care. When using drugs. When you do not want to go out and prefer to stay at home. When you are overly religious or believe in silly theories. When you are egocentric or spoiled and think everything must be your way. When a person is rude and arrogant. Story 57. According to my girlfriend, being overly stingy or cheap is a huge turnoff. While it is true that in a relationship both partners need to contribute and help each other in times of difficulty, on a first date generally the man should manage the expenses. It does not have to be something expensive. You just have to show that you value time with her and are willing to take care of her needs. If things are expensive or unaffordable for you, you can let her know indirectly or plan alternatives without making it sound like you are cheap. Can't afford dinner? No problem. Suggest a picnic in a park. Out of money? Walk her home while chatting and enjoying the moment. Did not pay your electricity bills? Light a candle and bring out champagne. But for the love of God, do not say that something is too expensive or seek out the cheapest option imaginable. Story 58. Very visible tattoos in inconvenient places on women, such as above the breasts or on the face or neck area, can attract attention. The bigger and more prominent they are, the more drama may occur later. Tattoos that appear trashy likely indicate a background or lifestyle related to street culture. If you want a genuine relationship, it is time to pay the bill and go home. If you want a great one-night stand, you might as well stay. Story 59. When they do not create a good first impression by dressing appropriately to match the theme of the location where the dates take place. Story 60. In my opinion, this question is asked an excessive number of times. If you genuinely wanted an answer and not attention, you could easily search the subreddit and find hundreds, if not thousands, of legitimate and honest answers. Story 61. For me, wearing a cross necklace. I am agnostic and grew up Christian, but anyone wearing a cross necklace is probably conservative or at least has some conservative views I am unlikely to agree with. Story 62. Make me go halves like baby. If you are poor, just say, I am not trying to make money off you, but I want to be taken out. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.